What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise post-game show here on a Tuesday night, a Wednesday night. It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday today. Yeah, the Blazers get a brutal home loss in a game where they come back and battle hard against the Memphis Grizzlies. They were down, 15, 17 points at one point in the fourth quarter, battled all the way back to tie the game. Could not take the lead. The Grizzlies end up winning this thing 111 to 106. This was a game, Eric, that frustrated me more than the first 6 games of the season combined. And I have some things I want to rant about tonight. Multiple things. That's what this post-game show is going to be. Because it's been a good start to the season, but there were some things that seriously bothered me tonight, and we got to get into them. I'm sure there's things that bothered you as well. But first, let's plug our sponsor. This is the Blazers Uprise post-game show presented by BetOnline. Head over to BetOnline and you'll receive 50% rewards by using the promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports and events, and you get a 50% welcome bonus. So head over and check out our friends over at BetOnline if you want your rewards. Promo code BELIEVE. All right. Eric, I'm stuck between okay, we're fine, we're 5-2, I would have taken that, and I'm stuck between, oh my goodness, this game infuriated me. How did you feel about this game? What are your emotions right now? Because I'm just going to be honest, I'm angry.
Yeah, I mean, Memphis is a tough team. I didn't expect us to win this game without Dame, but to play as bad as we did, and then to still have a chance at the end and then play dumb at the end too. I don't know. It's just, I agree with you. It's very frustrating.
Yeah. I want to start off with something that might surprise people that have watched us for a while. Okay. I want to start off ranting about the freaking refs in this game.
Well,
and if you've watched us for, 2-3 years, you're probably familiar with the fact that we don't come on here and rant about refs as much as you might expect, right? During the course of the game, I'll tweet out stuff that I have a problem with on Twitter, but generally we come on here, we focus on what the team could do better, we focus on what the team did well, and we don't focus a ton on the refs, okay? But in certain games, we make special exceptions. This is one of those games where I have to make a special exception, Eric, because, oh my goodness, these refs were absolutely horrific. Absolutely horrific. The fact, and this will segue into talking about Chauncey, but the fact that Chauncey didn't use his challenge in this game is just blasphemous to me. I thought he should have used it in the first quarter when the refs called a completely clean block a goaltend, giving Memphis 2 points. But throughout this game, it seemed like every bang-bang call that should have been a charge on Memphis, there was at least 3 or 4 plays that I thought were obvious charges against Memphis were called blocks. Portland driving into the lane, getting hammered, no calls. I mean, these refs had no consistency. I understand if you let the game be physical and you just keep it consistent in that regard. I understand if they call it by the rule book and there's a bunch of fouls on both teams, right? Or I understand if one team plays more physical than the other, why they may get more fouls called on them or whatnot. However, there was absolutely zero consistency in this game from this referee crew. I felt like the Blazers were battling uphill all night long against this referee crew. Multiple technicals on Portland. It was extremely rough. And it's not even any one specific call that stands out, because for the entire game, it was just a flow of very inconsistent calls. David Roddy would drive into Anthony Simons and just plow into his chest, and it'd be a block on Anthony Simons, right? But then Josh Hart would drive the lane and get hammered and hit on his arm and sent to the floor, and it's a no call. I mean, the consistency in this game was ridiculous. What'd you think of the refereeing tonight?
Yeah, I mean, you sometimes talk about it. I never talk about it. I thought it was really bad. But I also agree with you that Chauncey, this is probably his worst game of the season too.
Definitely.
And we'll break that down more later. But there was a point where, the one on Grant towards the end where I forgot if it was Bane or Job, but one of them extends their whole arm out. There's no contact other than the push off. Grant doesn't foul him at all. So worst case scenario, it's like a no call, and they call a blocking foul on Grant. You got to challenge that in that situation. And then we have another situation a minute later where you absolutely 100% have to challenge this. We're down 3. They called that blocking foul on Nurkic when I think it was Brooks extends his arm out. And once again, the only contact is from Brooks extending his arm out. And then we call a timeout after he makes both free throws down 5. Like, you just wasted your timeout and kept your challenge. Like, even if you lose that challenge, you have to challenge that because you were going to call a timeout anyway. If they overturn it or whatever, we have the ball down 3 instead of down 2 possessions, and the game was over at that point. So, like, in certain situations, you have to use your challenge if you still have it. And what's the point of not using it for that goaltend in the beginning of the game if you weren't going to use it at the end when we needed to, right?
The entire game. And
yeah, exactly.
I argued with people on Twitter. They're like, oh, well, you save it for a play later in the game. But when it's an obvious non-goaltend and they call a goaltend and you can challenge it and obviously save 2 points, you do it. Because if that happens with a minute left, you're obviously challenging that as well. 2 points in the first quarter is the same as 2 points in the fourth quarter. I have never understood head coaches, Eric, that save their challenges when it's unlikely there's a more obviously good play to challenge than a goaltend that obviously wasn't a goaltend. Saving those 2 points would have been crucial there early in that game, and I had people arguing with me on Twitter saying that you save it for the end of the game, but it's very unlikely there's a better play to challenge later on in the game.
But we had it at the end of the game and we didn't use it.
And then we didn't do it, which even made it worse.
Like, that's fine. Save it for the end of the game, but then use it when we have a situation that's a close call. Like, and not, I thought the one against Phoenix where we challenged up 2 with no timeouts left in 1.2 seconds, or if he makes both free throws, it was 8 and at the end, then we could call timeout, advance the ball or whatever. So I thought that was a bad use of the challenge. But that was a time when you're down potentially 2 scores. If the foul stands, you have to use it there, because once we're down 5 with that little time left, it was pretty much over. And yeah, you have to use it there if you save it. Like, there's no point in saving it further. That's the game right there on the line.
Absolutely, absolutely. Shout out to a couple donations from Christian Montes, a $5 donor that says, I've never seen the Blazers get beat up so hard with no calls, and then a $2 donation that says, they did miss some wide open shots early, though. Yeah, I mean, there is a number of things that went wrong with this game. The fact that they almost won it is actually miraculous. Yeah. Actually miraculous, because there were players on this team that did not show up. This team got carried by Yusuf Nurkic, okay? But I kind of want to start and go through this game chronologically. I don't want to just jump to Nurkic. I want to go through this game chronologically because this was, in my opinion, an absolutely horrifically coached game by Chauncey Billups. And I'm a Billups fan. I think he's done a good job all season long. But there is one thing, Eric, that he has not learned that he should have known before the season even started. And that is Jeremy Grant sucks at getting through ball screens. I told you guys about it in his player preview. I told you guys about it earlier in the offseason. Jeremy Grant struggles getting through screens. If you watched him try and guard Ja Morant pick and rolls tonight, he struggled. In isolation or other situations, he was fine. Everywhere else defensively, I think Jeremy Grant is a good defensive player. He just sucks at getting through screens. And I don't think that's ever going to change. Ja Morant is a pick and roll heavy player that thrives off pick and rolls. And I tweeted out before this game, here's how I'd match up defensively. You put Josh Hart on Ja Morant, and then you put Jeremy Grant on Santi Aldama, who's been starting at the power forward spot, shooting 26% from 3. He hit a couple against us tonight, of course, but shooting 26% from 3. Because Josh Hart's better getting through those ball screens, and then you have Jeremy Grant and Yusuf Nurkic potentially around the rim to protect the rim. And Ja Morant plays downhill, gets to the rim a ton. And once again, and he's done this earlier in the season, it got burnt opening night when he put him against De'Aaron Fox, and we were saying you don't put him up against De'Aaron Fox in that situation. You don't match Jeremy Grant up against a elite point guard that runs a lot of pick and rolls. He struggles in that. De'Aaron Fox cooked him, right? by Jaws standards, this wasn't a great game, but I thought Memphis at times just absolutely picked apart Portland's defense because Jeremy Grant was on Ja Morant. And I am freaking tired of putting Jeremy Grant up against guards that use a lot of ball screens. It doesn't work well. You want Jeremy Grant playing help defense. He's better there. And at some point, Chauncey has to learn. But I you could see it if you watched footage of Jeremy Grant from previous years. He's sucked at getting through ball screens for years. This is something that Chauncey and this coaching staff should have known before now. And they keep making this mistake, Eric. And me and you keep sitting here like just raging at the start of games.
Every stream we've mentioned this. Grant is, I don't know if he's elite, but he's very, very, very good at knowing when to help, rotating, being in the right spot off those plays, off ball, protecting the rim, not as the main rim protector, but coming from the weak side to protect the rim. It's called secondary rim protection. These are all things he excels at. And we constantly put him in a position where he's completely taken out of a play by a screen and has no chance to use his defensive strengths. And I don't get it, Tori. Like, what are we missing? Like, what are we missing here? Like, we have players on this team that can do it. Like you said, Hart can absolutely guard Ja, like, get through those screens better than Jeremy Grant can. And the position we put our defense in off the bat of this game pretty much set the tone right off the bat.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am tired of that. And then he comes out in the second half and puts Jeremy Grant back up against him again. And Ja finishes with 20 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. That's below his averages. But Portland sold out to stop him, and he was able to collapse the defense, and Memphis thrived off that. That's why they were able to shoot 13 for 28 from 3, 46%. David Roddy, 3 for 6. John Conchar, 2 for 4. Conchar, however you say his name. Desmond Bane, 5 for 8. Those 3 guys, and then Santi Aldama, 2 for 4. Those 4 guys shot over 50% combined from 3. We were talking about role players, right? David Roddy isn't someone who does anything off the dribble yet. John Conchar is not a guy who does anything off the dribble. Santi Aldama, he's young. He's not somebody you really worry about either. But the problem is when you play a guy against Ja Morant who struggles getting through screens, you have to send a bunch of help, and then all of a sudden you're caught in rotations. And Memphis is a team that moves the ball well, and I felt like defensively that was Portland's main problem tonight. They had some good moments, some good stretches, ran some zone, that sort of thing, but you can't put Jeremy Grant up. Like, Chauncey needs to realize that you don't put Jeremy Grant up against a player like that.
Yep. It's not, once again, we're not saying Grant is bad at defense. Like, I see a comment in chat. Let me give credit to who it is. Eric Olson says, Grant's an A- at defense for everything except screen navigation. And that's 100% true. He's like, if you just have him isolated without a screen on Ja, that's great. That's fine. Like, I'll take that. If you have him, like I said, help defender or whatever, like switching on to Ja after a screen, that's great too. But going through a screen when you know, like almost every single time, especially at the beginning of this game, they're just going to spam pick and roll with Adams and Ja, and we're just playing right into their, like, what they want to do. Mm-hmm. And we're taking, like Eric Olson says, one of our best defenders at everything but one thing, and we're putting him in that one thing over and over and over again to begin games. And we've gotten off to a slow start pretty much every game, gotten down a little bit. Now usually we like calm it down and get back in the game and we're fine. But why are we doing this? Like, why not like put your team in the best position to get off to a good start? It's mind-boggling, man. I just don't get it.
Yeah, taking a guy away from his strengths in order to play him to his weaknesses doesn't make any sense. Josh Hart defensively is better at getting through screens, more physical presence. He can do an okay job defending on the ball against John Morant. I mean, John Morant's been phenomenal this year, but you can put Josh Hart up against him, and he has good help if you have Jeremy Grant guarding Asante Aldama and Yusuf Nurkic guarding Steven Adams. Those guys can collapse and help him, but Josh Hart's better getting through screens, so maybe the defense doesn't have to collapse as much, and then you're able to get out on these shooters. Yeah, I'm sick and tired. I like it. Chauncey views Jeremy Grant as his defensive stopper, so he's going to put him up against the best opposing player no matter what, and it's just short-sighted.
Yeah, and I get that, Grant's lengthy. He can, we have a rangy athletic forward now. Like, that's typically how you want to use those guys, but it's clearly not working. It clearly was going to be an issue if he couldn't get better at screen navigation. Now, maybe the thing is you're just trying to give him as many reps as possible, but, I don't feel like it's something that's going to ever change. And like I said, why would you even want him trying to navigate screens when he's elite at other things? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. And I want just, us to be, go into a game with the right matchups. I feel like we're playing hard on D. Everyone was doing their job after Jaw gets through the screen, but what the heck are you supposed to do on one of the best players in the NBA when he's got a 3 or 4 step drive on you, full speed coming at you? He's excellent finishing both hands. He can stop on a dime and pull up, and you have no chance to contest it. How are you supposed to stop that if you're just constantly giving him that runway with no one there? So why not, if you're going to put Grant on him, you have to trap the screens then and let Grant recover, and then Nurk needs to recover back to Adams or whoever we're playing. You have to do something different other than just basically drop Nurk off the screen, because we saw that for years how well that worked, right? So We have the defensive personnel. Quit running this crap that doesn't work.
And Nurkic, let's segue this into talking about Nurkic, okay? And this will also, I have a point to make about Chauncey that also frustrated me in regards to Nurkic. But Nurkic did a really good job playing pick and roll defense. Defensively, I'm not even talking about the offensive end because he was great offensively tonight too. But defensively, he was really, really good. Nurkic was absolutely phenomenal tonight for the second game in a row. 3 for 3 from 3. I think that's a career high for threes in a game. 3 for 3 from 3. 4 for 4 from the free throw line. 8 for 14 from the field. That's 5 for 11 from 2. Would like to see him finish a little bit better. But, dude, 4 assists. He made some real nice passes in this game. 13 rebounds, controlled the boards. He had 6 offensive rebounds, 23 points. He was dominant. He was dominant in this game for Portland. Chauncey Billups, Eric, every time Nurkic got rolling in this game, took him out.
Especially in the first half,
no sense to me.
They couldn't stop him.
Even in the second half. He hits 2 threes in a row, and he gets taken out a minute later with 6 minutes and 30 seconds left in the third quarter. Ride him a little longer. I understand, I think Chauncey wanted to play him with the bench unit just to mix and match starters with the bench because he didn't have confidence in the bench's offense. But when the dude has hit a couple threes in a row, and when he's has a rhythm and he's playing well and the team has some momentum because he's playing well, and then you sub him out for Drew Eubanks, who I thought was terrible tonight, it was ridiculous. It drove me crazy. It's like he had a specific plan, and no matter what Yusuf Nurkic did, how well he played, he was going to take him out at a certain point. You cannot do that when you don't have Damian Lillard. You need... Simon struggled throughout this game. Nurkic carried this team. When he gets rolling, don't sub him out. Every time we had momentum, Chauncey killed it by taking out the guy who was playing the best on both sides of the floor for us.
Yeah, in the third quarter, he picked up his third foul, I guess. But, it's the second half. 3 fouls isn't, you don't need to take them out right away. But in the first half, he had 1 foul in the first half, so it wasn't even foul trouble. It's he's dominating, just but
that's the thing. He played
35 minutes, but
35 minutes, but you keep him in when he's going,
right? You would any player when he's cooking, right? I don't get it. Yeah,
I feel like if Dame or Ant does that, he'll keep them in, but because it's Nurkic, he gets taken out.
Well, this all goes back to predetermined rotations, right? Like you said, he probably. He knew our second unit was I mean, at times when Nurk wasn't with the second unit, it was pretty brutal. And Memphis won the minutes without Jaw on the floor tonight, I think. So that was really killer. But yeah, it's like you can't go into a game with predetermined things that you're going to do. If Nurk's like completely dominating them and they don't have a clue how to stop him, you especially with a player like Nurk that feeds off that momentum, and it can lead to better things the more you get him involved. Like, just please keep him in the game in that situation. Just doesn't make sense, man.
Doesn't at all. Very, very frustrating. Let's get the team stats up in here, and let's take a look at that. Whoops, I clicked the wrong thing. Hold on. Because I'm curious to see what these team stats look like. I haven't really looked at them yet. All right. So,
before you put that up, I can tell you what I'm most mad about. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
What are you most mad about from this, Eric?
Freaking turnovers.
This team has been way too sloppy today. And see, like, that's not on Chauncey.
This year, yeah.
Yeah, this year. That's what I meant. Dude, like, just boneheaded mistakes. This team has to... If this team could just take care of the ball, they'd probably be 7-0. You know, if Dame didn't get hurt and this team could just take care of the ball, they'd probably be 7-0. Like, they lost this game because of turnovers, right? They didn't shoot the best, but they got 16 offensive rebounds. 16 offensive rebounds to Memphis's 10, right? You got to take better care of the ball, man. Just looking at it individually, 5 players had at least 3 turnovers. Jeremy Grant had 4. I'm pretty sure they were all travels.
They were all 4 travels, yeah.
Nurkic had 3. I don't really remember Nurkic's. I know he had 1 backdoor pass that went out of bounds.
Yeah, he threw it way too low to Ant.
Yeah, but if that gets through, that's a layup. And with how bad our offense is struggling. See, like, those are the turnovers I can live with. Because if it gets through, it's a layup. And since it goes out of bounds, at least we can get back and set up our defense. And it's not a foul. Right? Like, there's never a good turnover, but there's turnovers that are worse than others.
Like Keon getting a double dribble in the backcourt?
Keon getting a double dribble in the backcourt. Josh Hart throwing this is the second time he's done this, throwing a cross-court pass, bringing the ball up the floor that's just obviously not there. Like, I like hit-aheads, and especially getting the ball up early and then flipping the sides of the court, but you gotta be careful with that, because if it gets picked off, it's a layup for the other team. That was a huge momentum killer from Josh Hart today. That cross-court outlet pass he threw. It wasn't really an outlet pass. He was the outlet, and he was trying to throw a hit-ahead pass across the court. I think it was to Anthony Simons. But I don't even remember who picked it off, but it's not even like he closed the gap faster. It was like a great defensive play. He was just already there. Yeah. So it's just, Josh Hart was terrible tonight. We'll talk about him when we get into the player card.
That out-of-bounds play down 3, or I don't know if we're down 5 or 3 at that point, but...
He drives baseline with no plan, gets caught in the air. Yeah, Josh Hart was in a funk today, man. But we'll talk about him a little bit later. He was brutal, though. But Simons was loose with the ball, too. Mm-hmm. And Simons has been a little bit too loose with the ball this season so far. He's just made some weird, bad turnovers. Like, I understand you get trapped and maybe try and throw it out and it's a turnover, or you're trying to split a pick and roll and somebody picks it while you're being aggressive and you turned over that way. But, like, his turnovers have been generally unforced, like, mental errors, I feel like. So, he needs to take better care of the ball. But Eubanks, 3 turnovers as well. I thought Eubanks was terrible. We can wait to talk about him too. It's just the turnovers. 20.
Winslow dribbles up and just throws it right to his guy standing in front of him. Remember that play?
Yep, I remember that play, dude. It's just such bad turnovers.
I remember. I don't remember. I think it was the beginning of the second half. We tried to force feed a couple into Nurk, and he got the ball poked out from behind, turnover, and then I think he turned it over the next play too. But I think that's where his 3 turnovers were.
Yeah, 20 turnovers. That's what lost this game for Portland. I mean, there's a bunch of other things, like every negative thing lost this game. It was a close game, but I mean, that's the most easily fixable, or should be the most easily fixable thing, but Portland still has been sloppy all season long. It doesn't really seem to be getting better. Now, having Damian Lillard back obviously helps with everything, But come on, you cannot turn over the ball 20 times.
Yeah, I mean, basically, without Dame, Ant's got to take care of the ball, and our two forwards have to step up, and that didn't happen tonight. And with the turnovers, and Grant and Hart did not really play. The most disappointing part is we had the last 4 days off, and we came out in this game in the first half like we were still on vacation or something. Like we hadn't, like,
sleepy.
Yeah, it was sleepy. It's like it's just frustrating when you should be the more rested team and you lose to a team that played 2 nights ago. And yeah, it's tough, man.
Yeah, I mean, every team will have these losses, man. It's just they should have won this game. They should have won this game. Should have been going on to the 6-game road trip sitting at 6-1. You know how nice that would be right now? 5-2 instead. And I understand, like, I'm okay with losses where it's like they come out and they play solid, the other team plays good, and they lose, right? Where every game you lose, and every game you win even, you can point at things and say, this went wrong, or this was a mistake, or that was a mistake. But when it's like controllable stuff, like matching up wrong to start games, not challenging something you should obviously challenge to take away 2 points and then not using it later, when it's the refs being terrible, when it's just sloppy, terrible turnovers, when it's certain guys just falling asleep defensively, that's the stuff that frustrates me.
Absolutely.
So that's what it was.
I'll get more into depth in that in a minute.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to your breakdowns. Shout out to Oscar, $10 donation, says, I did like the fight in the end, or close to the end. What annoyed me most was starting Sharp, but then just parking him in the corner and making him a no factor. Those aren't good minutes for him. Yeah, I mean, I kind of forget Sharp even played in this game. Thank you, Oscar, for a $10 donation. But that's probably why. That's probably why I forgot he played in this game.
Yeah, I mean, this was probably by far his worst game on both ends.
Yeah.
But, I mean, some of his shots weren't bad. They just didn't fall. But, yeah.
He fell asleep a couple times early on in this game defensively, which is the stuff you don't like to see.
Yeah, I think it was the first defensive possession. He lost his guy on when the shot went up, and he got the offensive rebound. And then he recovered back to him. The guy passed out and then went backdoor, and he got a layup. I forgot who it was, but yeah, two falling asleep on the first possession of a game after 4 days off is not a way to earn your starting role if you want to keep getting those minutes. So
not at all. And these were the types of games I was expecting him to have more of, though, to be honest. So
right. Yeah, I mean,
happen.
I'm not saying I'm like worried about him or anything like that. I'm just saying like you can't make those mistakes and expect to be it. And that's why Keon, who wasn't making as many of those mistakes, although he had a horrible falling asleep moment in the fourth quarter on a backdoor cut by Konkar. But it's like you have to earn that trust, and little stuff like that is completely controllable by yourself. Like, no matter what the game plan is, it's still on you to box out your guy and not fall asleep when he cuts back door. And unfortunately tonight, I felt like this was probably our worst game of the season too in terms of off-ball defense. And that's really frustrating to me because that's something that had been, I mean, we've had our moments this year, but what team doesn't? But like, that's something that despite these things we talk about, like Grant being in the wrong spot on defense, in terms of matchups, we still had a good defense because we had been making such little or few mistakes. And tonight it just all kind of came back and everyone just seemed to all fall apart at the same time.
Yep. Shout Carter with the $5 donation says, tough loss, but we're playing Keon in the fourth. Games with GP2 and Dame go differently. 80-2, baby. Yeah, the 80-win season dream is still alive. Thank you, Carter, for the $5 donation. GP2 is needed in this game just for on-ball purposes. Being able to put him up against John Morant would have allowed this team to stay out on shooters a little bit easier and would have definitely been nice. So, yeah, I mean, like long term, this isn't a game that makes me change any of my optimistic opinions that I've gathered the first 6 games, right? Blazers are missing their best offensive and defensive players, and they almost won this game when they did not play well. And the refs, in my opinion, were terrible. So you look at it that way, it's not a bad game, but the stuff that they struggled with in this game was very frustrating. Thank you, Carter, for the $5 donation. Shout out Oscar, $5 donation, says, also, ref killed our momentum over the chance they got like Memphis was the home team. They gave Roddy more respect than Ant, Grant, or Hart. Yeah, Roddy, like that's perfectly sums up this game. Roddy, a rookie, drives into Ant. Ant plays good positional defense, absorbs the contact with his chest, and because Roddy is so big, it's a big collision, and Ant gets the foul because of that. Like, if Roddy was skinnier, I don't think they would have called a foul on that play because it wouldn't have looked like such a violent collision. But because Roddy is so big and just drives straight into him, it looked violent, so they just call a foul. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the thing, is it's like they just guessed all game and they were inconsistent. Right? And people can sit here and chat and say, well, look at the free throw differential and this and that. That's just box score watching. Like, watch the way it's officiated. Some teams play more physical than others. Portland attacks the paint constantly. They should have more free throws than a team that's shooting a bunch of threes. Right? That's just how it goes. Just box score watching and looking at free throw differential to gauge how a game was reffed doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and then there was that one when Jaw took the charge, and he's already like leaning halfway back towards the ground before like Ant even gets to him, and then like there's barely like any contact at all. Like he took a dive on that one, but
we can't get a single charge call in our favor if we beat them to the spot. Yeah, that's what's frustrating, is there's multiple plays. Portland defenders beat Memphis to the spot, didn't get called. Yeah, I mean, this is just a weird game. Shout out. Oh no, I just read the last dono. Okay, so did anything else bug you with Chauncey today?
Yeah, but I'm gonna save it for the breakdown here in a minute.
Okay, yeah. I just asked you that so I could load the breakdown.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I'll just get into it, and then later I'll show you what I mean. And I have an example. So for everyone that wants us to show examples of what we mean by Grant, I have a play too later on that will show what position I want him to be in on defense. And but I don't get it. The first half we switched to it. Well, first of all, when they took Adams and Santi out of the game, why are we keeping Eubanks in the game? Why were we playing Eubanks in those minutes? Like, why don't we go small too when they didn't have a center in the game? And then we finally do it, but they bring the center back in, and we don't switch picks. It was like Winslow, Nas, Grant, and Hart, and like we're not switching every pick. Like,
yeah, and then there was a stretch there where Eubanks is in and we are switching, and Eubanks ends up on Jaw or shooters, and then Eubanks was late to every shooter all game long. And they got multiple 3-point makes because Eubanks is guarding a shooter.
Mm-hmm. Makes no sense. Like that's, if we're gonna switch, that's the whole point of having that kind of lineup in there with Winslow, et cetera, right? Small ball, where you can just switch all picks and not get burnt because everyone's about the same level defensively, and you can just auto switch everything. And then we were like, some people thought we were switching and some weren't, and like, so some of it's communication, but like Chauncey's got to let them know when that lineup goes in, switch absolutely everything. Like, I just don't get it, man.
Yeah. So that was very frustrating as well. And Eubanks was, Eubanks was terrible in this game. Part of it, it's like when an opposing team goes small. Here's the problem I have with Eubanks: when an opposing team goes small, he's not the type of guy that'll make them pay on the offensive end. He had a layup over a small player, easy layup that he missed. Right, like Nurkic punished Houston's small ball lineup last game. Eubanks is good if you get him the ball in certain situations, but he's not a guy that'll punish small ball, right? But then on the other end, he's not a guy that can keep up with small ball on the defensive side of things. So what is the purpose when a team goes small ball of playing him? But also, he's not a switchable big. You don't want to switch him out onto Ja Morant or guards. So why are you switching and playing him? Why don't you just go small to match their small ball and then switch? It just, the usage of Eubanks tonight made no sense, and it's why I'm not a big fan of him as the backup center. He's had some good moments, but there's just no one thing that he does really well at the NBA level. He won't punish small ball against bigger lineups. He's a little bit overpowered against bigger centers, against the Steven Adams or whatnot. He's not a shooter. But if you're gonna play him in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's once again it's gonna sound like you're knocking Eubanks, but he's not being put in the best positions either. But I mean, I will say he has been finishing pretty well this year. And he hasn't been terrible in his minutes, I feel like, outside of this game. But I don't even think it's his fault in this game. Like I said, it's not like, why is he even playing in those minutes to where he can get exposed like that? If you have these small ball lineups that you have had success with in previous games, why are we not utilizing that more? Like, why do we even play Eubanks in games like this? I don't feel like it's his fault if he's out there and he's not good at doing the things you need him to do in a game. Like, just don't put him in those situations then. So, but I feel like for some reason, we have to play him a certain amount of minutes. I hope that's not the case, but I'd rather just not put him in those positions against teams that we know we don't need another big guy for. Like, if we're playing Denver and they're playing Jokic and DeAndre Jordan and stuff like that, it's fine. Eubanks did good that game, but we don't need him against Memphis, who has no bench, at least until Jaren Jackson comes back. Brandon Clark's really good around the basket, but he's not a huge physical guy that you have to punish with size. You can get away with having a Winslow on him.
Absolutely. So rough game. Well, let's hop into
Pasty Zach with a member message. I'll read this off while you're loading that.
It's already loaded. I was going into your
I just want to get this out of the way.
Intro animation.
I saw more Nurk hate tonight, and I'm losing my mind. Yeah, I mean,
if anyone's hating on Nurkic tonight, they're a hater.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. There's nothing left to say. There's people who will nitpick every little thing Nurk does, no matter what else he does on the floor. There's people that just cannot stand Nurk and will continue to point out every little thing. Okay, so you mentioned he was what, 5 for 11 or something on 2-pointers today.
2 and 3 for 3 from 3.
Yeah. 3 of those were one play where he single-handedly got 3 offensive rebounds. He didn't quite get the ball, but he was tipping it towards the rim. That counts as shot attempts, and that's a hustle play. I'll never be mad at that. But then the same person was like, "Oh, he was 0 for 3 in the last minute." It's well, no, he was getting offensive rebounds and almost had an incredible tip in. Yeah, people just don't understand.
It's either the dude has to be absolutely perfect or he's going to get criticized. That's how you can spot a hater, right? And it's the same thing with our streaming even. There's people that'll hate on us if we ever, word something wrong or are too mean to somebody who comes in our chat and is disrespectful or anything like that. But that's the thing. That's how you know a hater is you have to be absolutely perfect at what you do, or they will absolutely blast you for it. Nurkic played better defense than the rest of the team combined tonight. He carried us on both sides of the floor. We lost by 5. In his 35 minutes, the Blazers were a plus 12, which means the 13 minutes he was off the court, they were a minus 17. He was dominant tonight. I mean, I don't know what people were watching. He had a number of great passes, more assists than turnovers. Rebounded the ball. It's just stupid. He was phenomenal tonight. Anybody who says otherwise is just hating on him. And he has his haters. More haters than any player on this team, unfortunately.
And he stepped up with Dame out. He said before the game that he knows he needs to step up, and he absolutely has.
Yeah. He was great last game. He was great tonight.
Yeah. And the funniest part is, like, you see all these, like, oh, trade Nurkic, get his butt out of here. He can't even be traded for another month and a half. So, like, I don't know why people get so worked
No,
up.
but here's the thing. Here's the thing with all these people, right? Is any center that we're able to get on the trade market, if they held that new center to the same standard that they hold Yusuf Nurkic to, they would be still losing their minds about our center. The thing is, if we trade for a center, though, all these people that hate on Nurkic, they're going to let everything slide. Like, if we trade for Miles Turner and he hits a three, oh, see, Nurkic can't do that. It's nice having a center that can shoot, but Miles Turner can end the game chasing blocks, 4 fouls in 24 minutes and not rebound the ball. They won't criticize him because they won't hold. That's the thing. That's how you know a hater. They'll hold Nurkic to a higher standard than any center we would get to replace him.
I mean, if we traded Nurk for, let's just say we got DeAndre Ayton and he had 23, 13, and 4, those same people would be like, best center ever. Look how we upgraded from Nurk.
Yeah. We almost won this game without Dame because of Ayton. Yeah. That's the thing. It's just that's how you know haters, man. I mean, I will criticize him if he plays bad. I will talk him up when he plays good, just like I will for any other player on this roster. But it's like we had people in here a couple streams ago, I don't know, 3-4 games ago, saying Eubanks was better than him. Saying we should start Drew Eubanks ahead of him. I mean, hopefully that person watched this game tonight, because this team was night and day different with Nurkic and Eubanks on the floor. Eubanks, 10 minutes, minus 13. Nurkic, 35 minutes, plus 12.
Yep.
Anyway, let's jump into your breakdowns, Eric.
Charlie, that's not true, man. Whatever.
Yeah, that's not true. Not true, Charlie. But yeah, I mean, people say ridiculous stuff. Anyway, let's just break things down, Eric. Let's just break things down. We got play number 1, tie game.
Play number 1. It's time for the hottest new game show around. Why did we give up an open 3 on this possession?
Oh, it's back. Let's go.
It's going to be a mainstay, I'm afraid. But so we have this play here where Jaw's going to get a screen from Steven Adams. Winslow's going to try to fight through the screen. He's a little late, so Eubanks has to stay with him in the second slide. And then, so right here, we have a situation where in the second slide, you can already see we have 3 guys basically guarding Jaw because Ant is, coming to help. And they have 4 other players here, so something bad's going to happen. We're already, kind of messed up. Now, in this situation, technically Ant would be the help defender. But if you're going to switch or have both guys go with Jaw after the screen, you can't have the help. You can't need help. You have to, if you're Eubanks, you have to play him and force him back towards Winslow, not away from Winslow. So Eubanks is out of position and is going to force him towards the basket baseline, which is what you do not want to do with Jaw. And so, technically, Ant shouldn't even be here in this situation or need to help because Eubanks is already the help defender off this screen and roll. And Ant should be close enough to where if Adams rolls, he doesn't get a wide open spot, but probably not that far. And then we see the next slide, Jaw goes under the basket, and Adams had rolled with him, but we basically once again have 3 players guarding 2, and Ant still doesn't need to be there. Grant has come down to get that pass, to block that pass from the corner, which was a good move from him. But then in the next slide, Jaw's going to kick it out to, I think, Tyus Jones up top there. And so what happens? We have Ant recovers back to his guy, but Grant and Jeremy both run out to the same player. And so we have 2 people closing out on 1. And that's noticed, and Brooks is left wide open. And so they kick it over to Brooks, and in the last slide, he has a wide open three.
Yep. Also, why is Jeremy Grant jumping here?
I don't know.
What is he jumping at, man?
I don't know.
I remember this play happening. I don't remember seeing Jeremy Grant jump.
So, yeah.
It's just weird.
So what should happen if you go back to the play where Jaw's throwing it?
Mm-hmm.
Ant should stay down because you see Jeremy Grant's there. So if Grant just stays on Roddy, Ant stays on Jaw, Eubanks recovers back to Adams, Winslow could come back out to Brooks, Hart goes over to Jones, and we're back to fine. Like, we'd be fine.
Yeah. I mean, this is just outside of their rotation principles, I think, this situation.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing, is you got to communicate, because you can have certain rotation principles, like, okay, when help goes to the ball, this guy's supposed to rotate down, or this guy's supposed to rotate over, whatever. But in certain situations, it's going to be a unique situation that you're not going to know exactly what your rotation should be, and that's where you have to communicate, right? Like on this kickout pass, Hart needs to say, I got ball, or Grant needs to say, I got ball. It's I don't know, like Grant should be the one probably turning and rotating out to Brooks here. Is what it should be, or Winslow or something. But yeah, it's just, that's where you got to communicate, because you can't have two guys running at the ball, and Grant in this situation, seeing Hart in front of him, should already be running to Brooks.
Yep. Just bad communication again.
Yep. I mean, but that's the thing over the course of a game is these types of plays will happen.
Absolutely.
Where, but you don't want too many of them. When it's too many of them, that's when you have problems.
The thing, that's why I mentioned the Ant positioning at the end, because he can't, or at the beginning of the play, because he can't be that far out. And we're going to give up an open three if he has to come that far over. He doesn't even help on Jaw. So he takes himself out of the play.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, technically he's in the right spot, but we can't have, like, the only way this would make sense is if we switched Eubanks and Winslow, not Winslow trying to recover, and then Ant's the help defender. But we already have two people guarding Jaw. We can't bring a third guy over and expect them to not get a good shot here.
Yep. Anyway, that was play number 1. Let's check out. I gotta add it. I gotta download it. There it is. Wow, it downloads. Shout out Kyle F. $5 donation says, was not fun to be lullabied in the last minute by 5,000 free throws. Dude, it sucked how they came back in this game and then just couldn't get over the hump. I hate that. It's like, man, yeah, that was fun, the comeback and all that, and then it's just such a buzzkill at the end. It was tough.
Yeah, I was going crazy. I was up on my feet yelling when we tied it, but
yeah. Play number 2, Eric.
All right, play number 2. So this is what we were talking about earlier. So Eubanks is in the game. We have Nas, Keon, Winslow, and Sharp, all basically switchable defenders against a small lineup by the Grizzlies. And so Jones is going to do a dribble handoff with Bane in the corner. In the second slide, you see him coming up and getting a screen from Clark. And Nas is on Bane, and this needs to be an automatic switch right here.
Yep.
So all that has to happen is Winslow jumps the screen. He's right behind Clark here. Winslow jumps the screen and guards Bane. Nas takes Clark. Possession basically halted, right? Like they don't have anything to do. Nas and Winslow are basically similar defenders. They're interchangeable. They're the same like height and length. I mean, obviously Winslow's a more physical player, but in this situation, it's an automatic switch. So as we go to the third slide, what happens? Winslow switches, Nas does not. So now all of a sudden we have two people here, and Nas is out of position. Clark's rolling. Keon now has two guys he's trying to guard. Nas isn't even like trapping or anything. And then they're actually going to let us out of this play, right? So they don't take advantage of it. So they pass back to Jones. Keon does a nice job of recovering. Nas gets back down to Clark. So like it doesn't end up hurting us. So we're back to being okay defensively, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not great, but okay still, right?
Yep.
And this whole play, Eubanks is having to basically just guard a guy in the corner, which is not what you want him to do. But this is why Sharp did not play many minutes in the second half. So look, first of all, his body is turned and he's not in a position where he could quickly recover or do anything. He's not in like down in his stance or anything. But just watch where Konkar is compared to Sharp in this picture. It's the ball is on the bottom of the screen. There is no reason Sharp should have a guy cut in front of his man cut in front of him in this situation. He should be between his man and the ball at all times on this possession. And he just kind of gets caught ball watching. They pass to Konkar in the next slide. And he gets the ball down the middle of the paint. And by this time, you can't, like I said, you can't have your guy, when the ball's all the way on the other side of the court, catch the ball between you and the guy who passed it to. Like, that's completely inexcusable. You have to be, he should have been right at the free throw line right now before that pass even happened to where he can't get that ball. So, and then in the last slide, we see, so Eubanks has to come down and help. But once again, he's not going to be able to make this closeout. So you see at the top of the screen, Roddy's wide open. And because Sharp fell asleep and Konkar got in the middle of the lane, and look how many guys he draws. Basically, all four Blazers other than Winslow are all now either in the paint or looking at Konkar, and he makes an easy kick-out pass for a wide-open three. And, I just don't get why we're not switching or why the plan isn't to switch all. And maybe it was and maybe not, it's just messed up. But, like, we can't be making those mistakes when we run this lineup. We should know that that's the plan with these kind of lineups.
Yeah, and Winslow and Nas should know, especially since they play minutes together on the bench unit, they should know that any screens involving those two guys is just a switch. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, similar defenders or even similar offensive players you switch to. Yeah, switch that. Sharp has these issues, man, where he seems to, like, lose focus defensively for a split second, and he recovers really well, and he, like, a lot of times defenses won't really take advantage, or offenses won't really take advantage of it, so it's not really much of an issue. Yeah. So it hasn't really stood out or anything. But, like, this is one of those examples where he just, like, loses focus for a second, completely stops paying attention to who he's guarding, they just face cut him. But then also another thing, like, if you're going to play against a small lineup, if I'm fine playing Nurkic against this lineup because Nurkic can punish it on the offensive end. Mm-hmm. Eubanks against this lineup, when he's not punishing it on the offensive end, this is why you go small to match. Because if it's somebody smaller who's quicker, they might be able to get out on this three-point shot, but Eubanks can't.
Yeah. Well, go back to the first slide for a second. Why is so the action is like completely going towards the opposite side of the court, right? Mm-hmm. Why is Sharp like up on his guy? Like, that's not how you play off-ball defense.
It's like he was like up on his guy, and then he realized, oh, I need to get a foot in the paint. And then he was like, okay, I'm going to get a foot in the paint, and I'm going to be in good help side position. And then he was just got cut. You know what I mean? Like, couldn't, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, lots of mistakes on this play.
Right. Yep.
Stuff you got to clean up.
Yep.
Anyway.
Hopefully they do.
Hopefully, play number 3. Let's hear that download bell.
All right. So, play number 3.
It's not yet.
Okay.
Because, okay, there it is. Oh, it was already downloaded. All right, cool. Play number 3. What we got?
All right, so we got Tyus Jones gets a handoff from Bane. Bane's going to clear out. And then Adams is going to set a screen here on Jeremy Grant. Once again, we have Grant guarding ball. But this play isn't really his fault. So Grant Nurk does a good job of cutting off the drive. and we see that Grant recovers and gets back in front of Jones. Nurk can then recover back to Adams. I think Winslow is a little too far in the paint here in the second slide, but well, it's fine. Or in the third slide, I should say. I don't know if I'm just like really behind on the feed or whatever.
I'm just reading chat, my bad.
Yeah.
All right, so third slide.
The third slide, Grant's back in place. We're defending it pretty well. Things are going okay on this possession. And in the fourth slide, we see we're back to pretty good position for 4 of our players. But what do we always say when your man on offense, when your man's not looking at you in this situation? If you're number 46 Konkar down there,
yeah, you make that baseline cut.
Make that baseline
and there's a
cut.
perfect passing window.
Yeah, and what? So I don't know why Ant is so high here. He basically gets caught out of position and ball watching, and in the next slide, Konkar drives baseline. Adams just steals off Nurkic, and he's got a wide open lay-in. Just pretty good defense overall. Nurk does his job. Grant recovers, and we still fall asleep and give up a lay-in. Just possessions you got to cut out. Yep.
This type of stuff should be improvable as the season goes along.
Absolutely.
Like that's the thing is it's a lot harder to teach somebody to be a good on-ball defender because you need specific traits. Like you need to be quick laterally. You need to be good at being able to tell when an offensive player is going to attack and when they're maybe trying to set you up for a crossover or a move or whatever. And then it's the whole getting through screens thing and all that. But like off-ball defense is just discipline and focus and awareness.
But this is why we screamed accountability for years, and we're so happy a year ago at Media Day when that's all they talked about was accountability, because this is stuff like in film you got to call out and be like, dude, you cannot do this. And the more you do it, the more reps, the more times you get called out, then in games, like, yeah, you might be thinking about it 10, 15, 20 games into the season. But hopefully as we get down to 60 games into the season or whatever, these type of things don't happen. And it's even if he's just a step or two down in this position towards the baseline, even if Konkar cuts, he's probably doesn't have enough room to get a wide open shot because Ant could still recover back. But so it's promising, like you said, if they clean it up. But the work has to be put in film wise and reps on the court in practice or whatever, just not making these mistakes to where it becomes natural not to do them. That's the best thing that the Billups hire for me was that I felt like he would not stand for this kind of stuff very often. And you can't really bench Ant when Dame's out, I guess, too much. But like stuff like this, when we have our full complement of players, should be not for like the whole game maybe, but like, you get taken out and maybe think about it for a minute when you make those kind of mistakes.
Yeah. I thought this team fell asleep more defensively today than they had in any game all season long. Mm-hmm. Like that was another frustrating thing watching this game. And we've had some good examples of it so far. Like Sharp, Simons. I thought this team was just sleepy defensively, and maybe it's because they had 4 days off and we're a little bit rusty mentally. But you can't let that be an excuse. Like you gotta use that break to get rested, right? So they got 16. This is the first of 16 games in 29 days, so they won't have that excuse or reasoning anymore for falling asleep on this type of stuff. So we need to see some improvement over the course of the month. Definitely watch guys off the ball, though, because on the ball, I think we've had a lot of good defensive moments. Off the ball is where I think things need to get cleaned up a little bit, but off the ball is easier to fix.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
Play number 4, the final play of Brant's breakdown.
And I saw this play and I wanted to show you. We showed you all the bad things from not switching or having Grant on the ball and getting screened out of plays. But let me show you what happens when you do the right things on a play. So we have the case where Jaws up top here in the first play, and he's got Winslow on him. Now, Clark's going to come set a screen, and what do? We switch it because it's Grant and Winslow, right? Two similar defenders. Both guys can guard in a one-on-one matchup, right? And so what happens? Grant's put in a position where he's the switch defender, and all he has to do is stay in front of Ja. And this is something that the last few years he has been, I think there was a stat before the season started that he had one of the best, if not the best, defensive analytics in isolation defense. Mm-hmm. And so no screen, they already set the screen, right? If they reset the screen, we just switch back to Winslow on him, right? So
yeah, because this is a switchable lineup. You got Hart, you got Nas, you got Winslow, you got Grant.
Yeah, so no, and even Simons can switch on to Ja for a minute, like it doesn't really matter. So as we go to the next slide, Ja's going to try to drive. Grant stays in front of him. He tries to get to a spot. He can't pull up or stop on a dime because Grant's long and athletic, and he's right there with him instead of trailing the play like he would have been in the first half off screens. And so what does Ja do? He forces a bad pass. He throws it low, and he can't get it to Roddy's shooting pocket. And Hart doesn't have to help much. Once he sees Grant is still in front of him, he can recover back to Roddy, and we turn the ball over because Ja makes a bad pass out to the corner. He doesn't really have a good angle. And it was all because we switched. We stayed in front of the guys, did the right things, turnover. Bam. That's how you do it. Like, I don't understand. Like, it's simple. Like, it seems so simple, right? Like, I don't understand why this isn't happening more. Like, we have proof now this defense can work and be really freaking good if we run it this way. I don't understand why we would put ourselves in bad positions with the other ways.
Yeah, the one way you can't switch is if you have a big man in the game guarding the screen, or like a Nurkic or a Eubanks, right, with the starting lineup. But that's why you put someone on Ja Morant who can get through screens. Because that's the one area Jeremy Grant struggles. And then Jeremy Grant can help. If it's Hart, I trust Hart fighting through on-ball screens more than I trust Jeremy Grant. And therefore, you're not forced to switch or be put at a serious disadvantage because the guy guarding Ja Morant gets completely screened out of the play. That's the problem with putting Jeremy Grant on a guy like a Ja Morant, on a guy like De'Aaron Fox, on some of these elite guards that use a lot of ball screens. If you wouldn't want to put Jeremy Grant up against Damian Lillard, Josh Hart's the better option.
And in the whole, like, most of the rest of the game, this didn't happen much. I just wanted to show this because it happened once. So I was like, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
But let's just say Grant's on Ja here and Eubanks is on Clark, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's happening? So Ja's getting around Eubanks. Hart has to help down. And that pass is wide open to the corner, and Roddy probably hits that three, right?
Yep.
That's what's happening when we don't have the right matchups, and this is what happens when we do. And it's awesome. Like, we could be a good defensive team. Like, it's like frustrating.
Yeah.
Like,
and also, it's like, even if Ja just attacks the rim, wouldn't you rather have Grant where Hart is instead of Hart?
Right, yeah.
So It's just playing to your personnel strengths in terms of matchups. So that's what's frustrating about the start of these games, knowing that Chauncey Billups is going to put Jeremy Grant up against a Ja Morant when it's not the right decision. For all the reasons we've laid out, this play has an example of being able to switch this screen, but not every screen is going to be switchable. So you got to be able to put somebody that can get through screens. If Jeremy Grant could get through screens well, then it wouldn't be a problem.
Right.
The problem is it's just certain guys have their certain strengths and weaknesses on the defensive end, and you have to play to their strengths as best as you can as a coach.
But, like, almost no one... Adams is a really good screener. So it's like Nurkic, like, there's not many players that get through those screens. So you have to do something different than just, like, hedge or soft show or whatever. Like, even if you have Grant in those positions, like, I don't understand. Like, you're not getting through that many of Adams' screens, even if it was a good person. So why not just put someone who's not a good help defender in those
Yeah.
situations.
Yeah. Yeah. And Grant with his length might be able to get a hand on that kick out pass to the corner if he's where Hart is right now. You know what I mean? I'd rather have his length there than his length being screened and caught 5 steps behind a Ja Morant. The length doesn't matter then.
We've seen Grant multiple times this season go like on a cross-court pass, like use his athleticism to go up and grab it. Yep.
So I'm hoping Chauncey figures this out at some point. But like we said that opening night, you don't want to put Jeremy Grant up against De'Aaron Fox because, and I said this, that concludes Brand's breakdown. Good breakdowns. But I said this, I just want to go back to our face cams for this. I said this before the season. Like, I completely forgot my point, actually. Great. Cool. I'm falling asleep too. No. I remember my point. Yeah. Like when we traded for him, I watched 4 games from the bubble, and everybody in the bubble was talking about how great of a defensive player Jeremy Grant was on the ball. And I went back and watched that footage, and I saw it in isolation, but he started getting through screens, man. It's just like this. It's a little bit discouraging, and I like this coaching staff, so don't get me wrong. Don't think I'm down on this coaching staff, but it is a little bit discouraging that they don't seem to recognize how bad he is getting through screens, because you could see it before this, you can see it now, and either they recognize it and don't care, or think that other things outweigh it when it's, I don't know, like it just doesn't compute to me what this coaching staff is seeing that I'm not, or vice versa.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, Ja wasn't like awesome tonight. Like, I mean, he had his moments. Bane hurt us more than Ja.
Yeah, collapse the defense consistently. You're going to be able to move the ball and get great opportunities out of it, even if it doesn't end up in a stat for Ja. Even if he's not getting an assist or a point or a bucket or a trip to the free throw line, if he's able to consistently collapse the defense, and they're a team that moves the ball well, they're going to be able to feast off that by moving the ball out of that.
Yeah.
That's what we've been trying to do to teams this year.
And like that first play I showed where they got the open 3 by Dylan Brooks. So Ja gets no credit for an assist or whatever there, but he drew 3 guys, kicks it out to Jones, who kicks it to. So Jones gets the assist there, but that was all Ja creating all the mismatches and the out of position players. So
exactly. Yep, hockey assist. But they don't count those in basketball.
No.
I'm sure there's a website out there that does or something.
Yeah, I think NBA.com has it, but yeah,
it'd be interesting to see what the hockey assists were for tonight. But let's hop into player cards real quick. Let me load them up. Can you read Pasty Zach's? I don't know if we read his member message.
Yeah.
If you have it.
I read it.
Oh, did you? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to Pasty Zach anyway. And shout out to everybody who donates and supports the channel. You can also support the channel by becoming a channel member by hitting that join button below. All the green names you see in chat, those are channel members. Shout out to everyone that supports the channel. But if you want an easier way to support the channel, you can hit that like button. That also supports the channel, and hit that subscribe button as well. We're on the road to 8K. Let's start off with Anthony Simons, Eric, who struggled throughout this game, but his final stat line looks good. 31 points, 8 assists, 3 rebounds, 12 for 21 from the field, 4 for 11 from 3, 7 for 8 from the free throw line, 4 turnovers, 3 personal fouls, 40 minutes of play. A lot of minutes played tonight for Anthony Simons. I feel like he should have maybe been a little bit more aggressive, searching out his three-point shot earlier in this game when the offense was just a mess and consistently turning the ball over. But also, the Blazers have to run sets to get him open threes when Damian Lillard's not on the court. And that's another area where I think the Blazers struggled tonight, is they didn't run enough sets or run enough actions to get guys in good positions. It's easy to just play out of freelance and play the style where they're, consistently attacking the paint, kicking out, making the right play, that sort of thing. It's easy to do that when you have Damian Lillard and Anthony Simons. But without Dame, I think you have to run the offense with a little bit more structure. And for the most part tonight, this offense didn't have enough structure given the fact that Dame was out. So I would have liked to have seen us use Anthony off the ball and run him off screens a little bit more than we did in this game. But in the end, he has that hot tear, hits a couple back-to-back threes to tie up this game, and then I don't know if he got another shot after that. I don't really remember. It seemed kind of quiet after that.
I think he had a driving layup. around Adams towards the end. But.
Yeah, so he got going late. I mean, people were criticizing him, and probably rightfully so earlier on in the game. He did have some moments where he struggled taking care of the ball and making shots.
Well, I mean, credit to Dylan Brooks. He gets in people's heads. He's super physical. But that goes back to the whole ref foul things. And this is something that I think, I mean, he's still young, so he hasn't really learned this yet. But you have to use that physical, like be crafty and maybe not necessarily act, but play up some of the contact. So like if he bumps you, like make it seem like he bumped you really hard, like, and if he's up in your face, like, because Dylan Brooks will get like right into your body with both arms out. So just do the rip through move and foul him out. Like, I think there was a couple of times in that fourth quarter that he was like really frustrated with how physical Brooks was. And I felt like you got to take that to him, or like run the backdoor lob play for him off ball. Like you were mentioning, do something, do more screens for him off ball. But like they had a play a couple games ago where we had a Brandt's breakdown where Ant went and set a screen for Jeremy Grant, and two people went with Grant, and then Ant got an open three. And this time we did that same thing late in this game. And they were so worried about Ant that both went with Ant, and Grant was open and got, I forgot if he got an and one or maybe it was just a foul, but he got to the line. So like you do more of those kind of things, but you have to find a way to, if there's a defense that's super aggressive like that. I think the same thing happened in our other loss to Miami where they got really physical and aggressive in the second half. And we just kind of let them do it without doing, because we had them with 4 fouls very early in the quarter and we had no fouls. And I mean, we got to the line a little bit in our run, but players like Dylan Brooks, when they're in the penalty, you have to just get to make your living at the line. So he did get 8 free throws. That's probably close to a season high for him today, but you'd like to see him get to the line even more when we get teams in early foul bonus situations.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you told me this was going to be a stat line against Dylan Brooks without Dame, I would have absolutely taken it. you know, so struggled at times throughout this game, but overall, very solid game from Ant trying to step up without Dame. Yusuf Nurkic was phenomenal tonight. We sung his praises earlier in the game. I didn't like the substitution pattern with him when he got going, but Eric, 3 for 3 from 3. I wanted him to shoot more threes. I can't believe I'm saying that.
Yeah, I'll take 3 threes and not be greedy with it. But yeah,
his shot is solid. His form's solid, man.
Yeah. I mean, like the first one he hit, it was like he gets kicked out too. He's wide open. Yeah, like shoot the ball. But like, I felt like he shot it with like, man, we can't score. Like I'm gonna hit this 3 type of thing.
Yeah.
Like it didn't seem like a normal like just okay, I guess I'll shoot this type of thing. He was like ready to shoot, and that was more like what was happening this summer on his, World Cup team. He was being like a little more like confident when he caught the ball and like shooting it, like already knowing he was going to shoot. And I felt like once he hit the first one and then the second one, like he was feeling pretty confident. He probably hung around the 3-point line a little too much after that. But just real good game from Nurk. Unfortunately, wasn't enough. Yeah,
he's now 4 for 7 from 3 on the season. So he was 1 for 4 going into this game. So that 25% went up above 50. It's now 56%, I think, is the percentage on 4 for 7. So with him shooting the 3 ball, it just always seemed to be like a confidence thing. Where that third 3 was the most confident 3 I've probably ever seen him shoot in his career, right? But other times it seems like he feels like he doesn't know if he should shoot this shot because he doesn't have confidence as a shooter, doesn't shoot a lot, doesn't shoot a great percentage when he does shoot. Like last year he kind of struggled shooting the 3 ball. So he seems a little unsure of himself, and that's when he does miss. if anybody in chat has played basketball, they probably know that shooting is a lot about confidence and being sure of yourself mentally and not second-guessing your decision to take the shot that you're shooting. If Yusuf Nurkic, I don't know, I just want to see what he could do on a season shooting a couple threes a game if he was truly confident shooting the ball. Because I feel like he could be a 33, 34, 35% three-point shooter, which is solid enough to shoot him, right? If he just had the confidence he shot these threes with tonight.
Yeah, well, honestly, I mean, that if he shot 7 for the year, that means he took 4 in the first 6 games.
Yeah.
So, I mean, shooting, it's like this for virtually everyone. If you're shooting less than a three-pointer a game, I mean, the difference in percentages and stuff, if you make one versus miss one, is like so misleading and stuff like that. So, like, I feel like in order to be, if you're going to do that, you have to shoot at least 2 or 3 a game. I don't know if we want him shooting that much, but I feel like if he did have the green light to shoot 3 a game, that he could at least make 1 a game and be a 33% shooter. And that's, as Trevin put, better than Miles Turner. And Turner,
that was going to be my question, because I hold on. I would ask this question to all the Nurk haters out there, or actually anybody in general, right? If Nurkic was shooting 33% from 3, would you be okay with him shooting 4.5 threes a game? Because that is Miles Turner the last 2 years before this year, and now he's shooting still almost 4 a game at 27%.
Yeah.
He also averages 7 rebounds per game. He's like the Jeremy Grant of centers when it comes to rebounding.
Like I said, 2 or 3, make 1. Like, yeah, I think I'm fine with that. I don't want him to be like out there because I feel like he does need to be around the basket a little more. He kind of, when he does hit threes, he, like I said, he tended to float a little bit around the 3-point line after that, and I don't like him doing that. But if it's within the flow of the offense, I have no problem.
If he's hitting, then fine. Like, you got to go out there and guard him, or he's shooting another 3, and if he's hitting, then you'll live with the results of that, I think, is kind of where I'm at with that. So he just needs to be, like, if he's going to be a 3-point shooter, he needs to be confident. Otherwise, he shouldn't shoot threes, basically, is where I'm at with him. I know a lot of people won't like him shooting threes, and I think that might be part of the reason he second guesses himself. I don't know if it's, I don't know why it is. He just needs to have confidence. If he had Dame confidence, I think he would be a 35% three-point shooter.
Yeah.
And if he's a 35% three-point shooter, then yeah, you want him rolling, you want him finishing around the rim, but also it's like the pick and pop is a viable option where if the other team has a really good rim protector, Nurkic can pop and he's going to make them pay. And then if you drag that rim protector out of the paint, and it makes things easier for Dame, it makes things easier for Ant, and then it also makes it easier. Yeah, and then it also makes it easier for Justice Winslow to play next to him. Like, having a center that can shoot threes is a good thing. It's just people have a problem with it because you don't want your center to get 3-point happy if they're not a good enough shooter, and then they're not finishing off the plays inside the arc that Nurkic was scoring off of to start this game.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's the key. That's the key with a guy like Nurkic. Anyway, phenomenal defensive game, I thought. Was our only really good defensive player tonight. Offensively carried us at times. Nurkic was phenomenal for the second game in a row. It's just, man, if we had Dame too, with the way Nurkic was playing tonight, I think we get this dub. Just too bad we don't have Dame right now. Mm-hmm. Let's move on and talk about Jeremy Grant, which... that was his stat. He scored 23 points tonight. 7 for 18. He had a and 1 3 later on in the game. I was surprised to see 23 points. I had to double check the box score and make sure that wasn't a typo. 5 rebounds, 3 assists, a block, 7 for 18 from the field, 3 for 9 from 3, 6 for 7 from the free throw line, 4 turnovers and a personal foul. I think Jeremy Grant offensively was bad tonight. Yes, he had 23 points, but the turnovers, the traveling, terrible. Passing up 3-point shots he should be shooting was bad. It's just with Damian Lillard out, you need Jeremy Grant to step up and be a legitimate, efficient second scorer, and he wasn't efficient tonight, made mistakes, more turnovers than assists. The Blazers needed a better version of Jeremy Grant tonight.
Yeah, both him and someone we'll talk about later. Just I don't know. It's like they couldn't seem to drive at the right times. They like would take it in when they didn't have an advantage, and they wouldn't take it when they did have an advantage. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. We took some horrible shots with our forwards in this game. Actually, two more people we'll talk about in terms of forwards all took like horrendous shots in this game. So, yeah. I mean, the overall stat line looks decent, I guess, because he did hit that three late. But yeah, I mean, you cannot have your second best player in this game, or what should be, your second best player, have four travels in a game like that. That's like unheard of, man. Like, stop traveling, please.
Yeah. So rough game from Grant. We'll talk about Josh Hart in a little bit because he was also rough. But Keon came in and gave the Blazers a spark. Kind of sparked that comeback. 10 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists in only 18 minutes. Was 4 for 9 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3. Had a very nice spin move there in crunch time. I liked what I saw from Keon. He came in and provided a spark. That's what you ask for a guy like him stepping in with Damian Lillard being hurt. And defensively, I thought he had some good moments, had some bad moments, inconsistent, kind of like the rest of the team, but was better on that end than a number of Blazers that played similar or more minutes tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he had a three like at the end of the fourth. That was a nice shot. I think he made his first two and missed the last three, but it's like it was cool to see Chauncey have some confidence in him and leave him out there for the crunch minutes because he was playing well, but then he has that one where he falls asleep on Concar and he gets backdoored and for a wide open lay-in. And then shortly after that, he has the play where he, for some reason, instead of taking the ball up, tries to pass to Nurk and then realizes it's Nurk, and we turn it over in the backcourt. Those are just two big plays in this game that unfortunately were mistakes and will kind of overshadow a little bit of his good stuff. But I thought he played well, just got a little nervous towards the end of the game.
Yeah, you can't expect much more for him in a situation like that. But yeah, that double dribble was rough, dude. That was just the epitome of this game for the Blazers, was just silly turnovers that ended up biting them in the end. Drew Eubanks finished with 7 points. He finished with a dunk right there at the end of the game that did not matter. But 3 turnovers, 10 minutes played, a couple of fouls. Like, he did not provide a positive impact in any area of the game for the Blazers tonight. The Blazers should have went small against the Memphis Grizzlies small lineup instead of rolling with Drew Eubanks. He was rough tonight, man. I don't know how much of it was like Nurkic looking really good and then we sub Eubanks in for Nurkic and he just ain't Nurk.
Well,
but
I think it too was the timing, like you mentioned earlier in the show, just like Nurk's feasting and then we like sub him out for some reason instead of keep going. So yeah, it's like I thought he came in and did fine his first shift, but like then it just wasn't what Nurk was doing, and it's
like the couple of buckets he had on the interior were nice right at the start, but everything else was rough from him tonight.
Yeah,
in my opinion. But Drew Eubanks, the bar isn't super high for him at the backup center spot, unfortunately.
And you can't have your backup center who's not really contributing much get 3 turnovers, and then also you can't compound that with a technical foul.
Yeah, he hooks a guy on a screen, gets called for the foul, and then picks up a technical. Like, come on, man.
That was not. I don't know if you saw the replay, Tori, but he was just standing there. Dylan Brooks slides his arm inside of hooks his arm, and then flails like Eubanks grabbed him. Eubanks was just standing there.
You can't you got to get your arms tight to your body when you screen for that reason.
No,
you can't let him hook.
His arm was tight, and
he still managed to get
Brooks seriously went like this, hooked it out, and lifted it up, and then the refs called the foul on him because Brooks made it seem like he was the one that got it.
Drew Eubanks needs to lift more weights then, have more bicep there so they can't slide their arm in or something. I don't know. Yeah, I mean that was. I thought he hooked him, but regardless, you can't get that technical.
Yeah.
You can't get that technical. But yeah, there's another play, I guess, that the refs screwed up. I didn't even mention that one because I thought he hooked him, but I didn't look closely.
He didn't do anything. Brooks initiated everything. Yeah.
That's Dylan Brooks for you. That's what he does. Josh Hart, 6 rebounds, 5 points, 4 assists. We should do points first no matter what. I'll ask Chris that next time. But he played 40 minutes tonight and shot 4 times, was 0 for 1 from 3. Eric, Josh Hart doesn't seem... He had a concussion that he was questionable with tonight, but this has kind of been a trend over some previous games. Like, I've been talking about how much I love him because he does things that you need. Like, he does the little things. He rebounds. He makes the right pass. He plays defense, right? But we need him to be more aggressive as a scorer. But the problem is when he is aggressive, it's when he shouldn't be aggressive. Like, there's been so many times this year where he's driven into multiple defenders and gotten in trouble because of it. And normally, like, he's able to make it work. Like, he's at least able to make, like, a risky kick-out pass that gets out to Anthony Simons or something or whatnot. And I like that sort of aggression. But there's times where he should be aggressive as a scorer, and he's just not. And it's very weird to me. He had that 1-3 he shot. He was wide open, and the defender didn't even really try and run out at him, and he still seemed completely unsure of shooting that shot.
Yep.
And then faded to the left on it.
It was line drive short.
He had a great first game. We need that, Josh Hart. This Blazer team is will be unstoppable if you get the Josh Hart that was in a Blazer uniform last year and that we had in game 1. Unfortunately, it seems like he's trending towards being a guy that just doesn't really look for his own offense and doesn't know where to pick his own spots as a scorer himself. Everything else is great, and that's why I love him as a role player, but he needs to be more of an offensive threat.
Well, I mean, he doesn't necessarily have to when we have our full complement of guys, but in this situation like tonight, we definitely needed him to step up. Like you mentioned, maybe it was just maybe he just wasn't all there still. I mean, he just got cleared right before the game, so yeah, I mean, maybe you can pass it off as that, but if he's going to be out there for 40 minutes, we cannot have passive Josh Hart out there. And, yeah.
Because he's been efficient. Going into this game, he was shooting 56% from 2 and 37.5% from 3.
Yeah, which we take that every day, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's just he's not shooting much. So, he's scoring. It's just I think he needs to be more aggressive, man. It seems to be trending in the wrong way, unfortunately. Because that's the thing is if he's generally getting the weakest perimeter defender on him.
Yeah.
He has to be able to take advantage of that. He has the talent to be able to take advantage of that. Because, I mean, the teams are worried about Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant. Josh Hart needs to be a threat. But then also defensively, utilize him as an on-ball defensive player. And the Chauncey's just not doing that.
Corner, I don't understand.
Yeah, I didn't notice him defensively today, which could be a good thing because a lot of Blazers made a lot of sleepy mistakes where they fell asleep off ball or lost focus or whatnot. So, a mediocre defensive game was probably a good thing, but he should be on the ball more defensively. That's what we need. And we're just not utilizing him against guards, which we should be.
The funny part is, I mean, our defense probably won't look that bad in terms of defensive rating and stuff against this team. We did get out and stop them from getting a transition. That's something that we haven't done all year.
Yeah.
So that was a positive thing. The Hart probably contributed to that.
How many points, if this was last year, how many points do you think Memphis scores?
Pre-tank, I'm assuming.
Yeah, pre-tank, start of last year, if we had this sort of effort in how many times we fell asleep and just overall had a defensive game like this, I feel like Memphis would have scored more than 111. So
yeah, I mean, like I said, we gave up 30 in the first, and I'll take 81 the rest of the three quarters against.
Yeah, they had some good moments defensively.
Top 10 offensive team.
Yeah. They had some. They were inconsistent defensively tonight. It was just a lot of the mistakes were very frustrating.
Yep. And a few haters in chat won't like this, but Nurk had a huge part in that. Especially in the second half, he was playing those drives by Ja very well.
Without Nurkic in this game, Memphis scores 130. If you had like Eubanks and then, I don't know, Cody Zeller.
Yeah. Oh, Trevin has a good point. It is in like the first 10 games of the season, and we were at home, which we were like dominant at home last year in those
True,
first 10 games.
but we were locked in at home.
But we probably would have given up a ton of points still and won. We probably would have scored 140 and won by 10 or something.
Yeah. Let's move on and talk about, let's see what we got next. Nasir Little, 12 minutes, still not playing much. 1 for 5 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3. What'd you think of Nas?
Yeah, I mean, he had a couple of breakdowns defensively as well. The 3 he hit was nice. Obviously didn't make any other shots. I didn't really have a huge problem with Nas in this game. I mean, other than him missing shots, but I didn't think he was like awful either.
Yeah, he hasn't been as good on the ball defensively as he was last year. And off the ball, I haven't really seen improvement.
We're not really using him as an on-ball defender. I think there was one time he guarded Jaw tonight, and I forgot what happened on that possession, but yeah.
Still, in possessions where he's ended up on the ball defensively, he hasn't been as good so far this year. Team defense hasn't improved. There was a play where he overhelped one pass away and gave up a 3 in this game, which was a mistake. And then offensively, man, like he's just not a threat off the dribble right now. I don't think, at least not a consistent one. And then the 3-point shot, 1 for 3, I guess you'll take from him, 33%. But I don't know what he was shooting going into this. It's just like he's close. He's close to being a helpful player. It's just not there.
He's one of our best players this year statistically off the dribble, so I don't know what that meant, but yeah.
What's the sample size on that?
I mean, it's not a huge sample size, but
who's he being guarded by?
He's finished very well. I'm just saying you can't say he's not good.
You think he's a consistent threat off the dribble right now?
No, I'm saying he has had moments where he's shown that, and
he's had flashes.
He hasn't played enough minutes to have it be something that's utilized or anything, but he does finish really well.
But okay, so here's my point. Like he played in a lineup with Keon, I think it was Keon, Justice, Eubanks, and Sharp. Mm-hmm. And that lineup had a lot of possessions where things got kind of stagnant. Like, I don't trust being able to give the ball to Nas in those situations right now, and he's going to consistently like make something out of them.
Yeah, I mean that's not his strength, but if you're talking about attacking a closeout or getting a tough bucket inside, he has been good at that.
Yeah, but that segues actually into my point about him. When he plays next to more talented lineups, he seems okay because he can play off the ball movement and play within the flow of the offense that's created by other guys. But in lineups that have Justice Winslow, Keon Johnson, bench players, he seems less effective offensively.
But you mentioned how stagnant we are. Why aren't we running more structured offense than in those situations?
I mean, that's part of it. But good defenses can take you out of your offense at times. Chauncey, I said it at the start of the stream, Chauncey, with a lineup like this, with less talent, you need to run a more structured offense. But it's also beneficial just to have guys that can consistently create. And when he gets stuck playing with lineups without a guy that can consistently create, or just one guy that can consistently create, like Ant, Ant, when Dame's healthy, plays with the bench lineup, it seems to be a little bit more of a struggle. And that's just an overall worry of mine with this bench lineup, is not having enough creation off the dribble that you can consistently rely on.
Yeah. Which isn't the case if we have our full lineup, but yeah. I mean, Nas hasn't played more than, I think, 15 minutes in a game this year, if I'm not mistaken, so I don't know how much we can really blame him for that, but he's had a couple of good games. He's had some stinkers. Hopefully, I don't know. He just needs to, I feel like he's not very confident out there either, but yeah.
See, that's the thing where, like, I feel like him playing next to better players, he plays more confident because he doesn't have to do as much. because he can just kind of play off that and pick and choose his spots and doesn't really have to do a whole lot and can cut and get layups that way, or is able to have guys closing out on him because the ball moves better with the starting lineup, so he's able to attack that. Whereas, yeah, it just seems like depending on who's on the floor, I don't know. This could just be me making things up, I don't know, but depending on who's on the floor with him, it seems to change his confidence level offensively.
So as Trevin says, Tori's advocating for starting Nas at small forward. Let's go.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if Hart keeps trending this way, then I don't know. Like Hart needs to be more aggressive and more of a threat. If not, then... But that's the problem. Nas has to be better off the ball defensively to start. He cannot play bad off-ball defense and start.
Yeah.
You can't get away with that in starting lineups. I mean, if Jaw's attacking like he is and, you know, you have to collapse and then rotate out and Nas is just lost out there, that's the problem, is he's been lost off the ball, you're going to get picked apart. That's the problem. So that's why I like Grant and Hart. They're better team defenders than Nas. That's why I like that starting forward duo better. So, yeah, it's just tough. I wish he could play a little bit more. I don't know. It's just such a weird situation because he was like, he might start, and he's being hyped up by Dame, and, you know, has all this promise, and he ended last season before his torn labrum playing really good basketball, and now it's just like he's a 12-minute game guy who barely does anything out there on the floor.
Yeah, well, I mean, do you think it's that easy to, like, play that little and, like, start dominating? Like, I don't know,
but I'm sure, like, if he was playing better in practice, he would be playing more minutes.
Yeah. For sure. Especially without, you know, some guys or you have to play 40 minutes when he was questionable.
Honestly, at this point, Eric, I have a feeling like once Dame and GP2 is back, he might end up out of the rotation. I mean, both those guys are out and he plays 12 minutes tonight. And we talk about whose minutes are Gary Payton II going to take. It might be Nas.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll have to see. I mean, these next 2 weeks are crucial for him to put together some momentum just as an individual player, just to prove to the coaching staff that they can trust to play him more, that he deserves more minutes. And I don't know, he's not getting much of an opportunity in games right now, and when he plays next to the lineups that I described, it's not easy for him. But he's also has a chance in practice, especially like these past 4 days off. I don't know, 4 days off, they get some time to practice. I know they took an off day or two, but then he comes out of that and plays 12 minutes. I don't know what's going on with practice and all that, but it doesn't seem good.
Yeah.
So, sucks, but is what it is. And then Shaedon Sharpe started again tonight and was probably his worst game as a rookie, unfortunately. Fell asleep, missed some shots. I mean, that layup he had was a tough layup. I thought he should have tried to not reverse it, but I don't know if he had the space to. Missed a couple jumpers. One he missed badly. I think this is just kind of what you should expect. I know he's been phenomenal to start the season, but a guy not playing in college, only 19 years old, you should expect inconsistency and you should expect games like this. This is why, you know, I don't think he's ready to start quite yet, because he will have games like this where maybe he should only play 12 minutes. Unfortunately, we have guys out right now, so he plays 24, but he was tough tonight.
Yeah, he seemed really sluggish at the beginning of this game. We had a couple of kickouts or plays where he dribbled and got to his spots, and then he kind of like went up slower than he normally does or hesitated a minute, and then I don't know if he just wasn't confident tonight either, but definitely a little shaky tonight. But yeah, I'm not gonna kill him for that. I mean, he's been better than expected so far, so we're gonna have to take the bad moments along with the awesome athletic ones like last game.
Absolutely. And then Justice Winslow we haven't talked about yet. 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 points, a steal, 1 for 6 from the field in 23 minutes.
Yeah, so this is the third guy that I was talking about earlier, along with Grant and Hart. Just, I don't know. We had Winslow does have this quite often, but he just has these moments where he thinks he's going to score, but like you can see it from a while away, he's not going to get a good shot off. And yeah, unfortunately, he had a lot of rough shots in this one. I mean, I thought he was pretty solid defensively. I think when he's running the offense and a little less like trying to play bully ball and stuff like that, I think he's fine. But yeah, I also wish we'd like post him up or something when he's got like Jaw or Tyus Jones guard him or something like that. Like maybe put him closer to the basket on a small guy and make him have to double, and he's a good passer, so you can run some action off of that. Not necessarily for him to score, but just to get someone an open shot.
I don't know if teams have to double, though. Like, I like the idea, but he has not been a good finisher throughout his career.
Well, I'd like to see him, like, maybe he could just spin to the basket and get a shot off. But a lot of the times when he drives in, he's driving into the center and that he's getting blocked or has to go around someone. He's not like a super finesse guy who can't like spin it off the backboard at different angles or things like that. So it's tough if he doesn't get like a line drive to the basket.
Yeah. For his career, he shoots under 45% from two. So far on the season, Basketball Reference, this isn't counting the game played tonight, but Basketball Reference has him shooting 54% at the rim, 0 to 3 feet, which is not good, especially for a forward. The offense feels more sluggish when he's in the game. The spacing is worse. The offense feels more sluggish. Like, there was multiple plays where I was watching the guy defending him tonight, and Justice Winslow's just spotting up behind the 3-point line, and he's not a threat from there. And he played for Memphis in the 2020 to 2021 season, played 26 games for them. So this is a young Memphis team, but they probably knew the scouting report. You know, you don't really have to respect this guy behind the 3-point line.
At least they didn't take a three tonight.
Yeah, but it's like there was a play Jeremy Grant drives, and Justice Winslow was sitting in the corner on that side of the court, only guy off ball, and Justice Winslow guy is one pass away and just completely helps onto Jeremy Grant's drive, and Jeremy Grant just doesn't even pass the ball out. I think because he didn't trust Justice to hit the shot, and I think he took a bad shot, and people were saying, oh, what the hell, Jeremy, which I thought Jeremy took a couple really bad shots in this game, so fair criticism, but also it's Justice Winslow off the ball, like, as a floor spacer. He's not a floor spacer. He cannot sit behind the 3-point arc and provide value just in terms of spacing the floor for other players, and he hasn't finished well around the rim this year. He's just not a good offensive player. He rebounds, he plays hard, he plays defense. That's why Blazer fans like him, but the offense just feels worse with him in the game.
I mean, when we have our full complement of players, once again, it is nice to have physical, tough defensive players because we don't necessarily need him to score or anything on offense. But yeah, it's rough when we're expecting him to run an offense, and like you said, it gets slowed down, and we're trying to run half-court offense, and it's him and Nas and Eubanks, and there's not much we can do to make it work in those situations.
Yeah, and Cole Slauson says he can pass. Yes, he can pass, but like here's the thing with Justice. You have players that are playmakers, right? But then you have players that can pass, but they're not necessarily a playmaker. A playmaker is somebody that usually can make plays for others and make plays for themselves, right? Somebody that can consistently put the pressure on the defense and can consistently create offense off the dribble. Justice Winslow is not somebody that can consistently create a good offense off the dribble. Yeah, he can pass, but he's not somebody that will consistently create solid looks for an offense. So, yeah, I like his passing, but it's not as valuable as somebody like, a Josh Hart when he's playing well, because he can not only create for himself, but he can consistently get downhill, drive the lane, and then he can also pass. That's more valuable for a bench unit, especially a bench unit built like the Blazers, where you have Shaedon Sharpe when everyone's healthy, Gary Payton II when everyone's healthy, Drew Eubanks, Like, you need a Josh Hart type playmaker, not necessarily a Justice Winslow type playmaker. He does provide positive things, but man, like, I think this is going to be the spot, this and maybe the backup center spot still, where when the trade deadline rolls around, I'm asking the Blazers to upgrade.
Yeah. And I wonder if they'd make that tough decision considering how much they like Winslow.
Yeah, I mean, like, if he's an 11th man, 10th man, or if he had, like, more shot creation shooters around him, it's fine.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if he's playing next to Lauri Markkanen and Kelly Olynyk in Utah, and they needed, you know, a defensive piece, you got enough spacing out there, you can make it work. And Justice Winslow can just play around the rim, get dump off passes and whatnot. But again, next to Eubanks, next to Keon Johnson, next to Nasir Little, next to Yusuf Nurkic, it just doesn't work. And statistically, the Blazers are good when they have Nurkic or Winslow on the floor. When they have both of them off, they're bad, and I think that's due to defensive reasons. But then when both Nurkic and Winslow are on the court, they're also bad, and I think that's due to two basically non-shooters, two guys that don't really shoot. I mean, Nurkic was a shooter today, but most of the time the spacing with Nurkic and Winslow on the floor is going to be rough.
Yeah. I'll also be interested to see if Watford ever comes back, if maybe, because he flashes like a little bit more, like not just passing ability, but like actually breaking down a defense and scoring or kicking out, playmaking stuff. So maybe he starts to tick those minutes and we're fine there. Maybe he's the backup center against a team like Memphis tonight. It would have sure been nice to have him. But yeah, hopefully we find some way to use these guys better, whether it's structured offense or running more or just, not putting them all in the game at the same time. But something has to change a little bit there.
Yeah, I just don't understand. Like, he's a forward that shoots 35. Like, after this game, he's going to be, 35% from the field and low 30s from three, 33% from three, I guess, still, but small sample. And last couple years, he's been in the 20s. It's just not efficient enough, unfortunately. So, anyway, I wish he could shoot, but that wraps up. I think that wraps up player cards. Sorry, I was loading in around the NBA here so we can look at other NBA scores. But yeah, that wraps up the player cards from tonight. Shout out to Caleb Pendergraft, $5 donation. He says, missed the game due to late work. Did we ever have a chance of winning? Also, looks like Nurkic and Ant were awesome from the box score. Well, the Blazers didn't have a lead the entire game. They were down, 17 there in the fourth quarter?
Well, we were down 4 to 9 points pretty much the entire game after getting off to a horrible start. I think we missed our first 8 field goals in the game. But, and then, so we I don't know, Memphis never really took control of the game until the fourth quarter, but it also felt like we were never really close to coming back and taking the lead at any point. And then the fourth quarter started and they hit 3 open threes in a row and increase the lead from 6 to 15. And it was from there we were fighting an uphill battle. And then we go on, I think it was a 19-2 run or something like that at one point and get all the way back to tie it. And we had some late game heroics from Ant. Keon had a great driving spin move to tie the game. If you didn't watch the game, you're probably wondering why Keon was playing in crunch time. But but then we just shot ourselves in the foot once again. Just too many turnovers and bad shooting.
Yeah, but also the Blazers have to get off to better starts. Even in games they've won this year, they've gotten off to slow starts. It's becoming a theme with this team where they start games slow. Okay, they got to do a better job at starting games quickly.
Yeah, the Lakers game, we're down 8 late.
The Suns game, we were down 13.
Yeah, Suns game, we're down in the second half, make a fierce comeback. I think the Kings game, we were down in the fourth quarter. Came back and won it. I think we were down 5
Kings game
with
we
a couple
started
minutes
hot.
left. Yeah, But then we let them back.
But then we let them back in. Yeah, you know, which NBA is a game of runs. Yeah. But, like, other than that Kings game, I think every single game we haven't started off well since then.
Mm-hmm.
Chat, remind me if I'm wrong, but I think Miami, we started off well and we actually lost that game.
Yeah.
But other than that, we started off slow.
Yeah, so it'd be nice to, like, not have to use all your energy coming back. But, yeah, unfortunately.
Yep, that would be nice. But anyway, let's go around the NBA real quick here, Eric. We will alternate. That's what we're gonna do for this. I still need to create new graphics for this, but I enjoyed my 4 days off. All right, let's just say that. The Wizards beat the Sixers 121-111. Kristaps Porzingis 30 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists. Maxey 32 points in the loss. The Sixers, I think, we're still without Joel Embiid.
Yeah, he didn't play.
Yeah, so Embiid has been out, but the Wizards are 4-4 to start the season.
Mm-hmm.
And then, You ready for...
You want me to do it? Okay.
We'll alternate. You want to alternate again? That's what I was saying. You want to alternate again? It's fun. It's fun to alternate.
Yeah, let me bring this up.
All right, yeah. You got Hawks-Knicks, Eric, which was a wild game. Speaking of a game of runs.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get to see much of this one. But Hawks get the 13-point win. DeJounte Murray, 36 points, 9 assists, huge game from him. Trae Young only had 17 on 7 of 22 shooting. So DeJounte stepped up in with Trae having a bad game. And then for the Knicks, Jalen Brunson had 20 points. A couple other people were in the teens. RJ Barrett, 19. But, yeah, just not enough scoring from them tonight.
Yep, and then Boston-Cleveland was the game on ESPN before the Blazers went to overtime. Cleveland wins 114-113 to move to 6-1 on the season. This was a phenomenal game late. Jason Tatum had a poster dunk to tie it up with 7 seconds remaining. Donovan Mitchell at the end of regulation hit a few buckets, got going. He's been phenomenal all season long, averaging 32 a game. And Garland was back today. His eye is still looking messed up. So yes, it was indeed an eye injury that he was out with for multiple games. The eye still isn't looking good, but he looked good tonight. 29 points, 12 assists for the All-Star guard from last year. Mobley, 15. For the Celtics, 30 from Jaylen Brown. He had a good game. Tatum had 26.
Yep, and then we have the Miami Heat beating the Sacramento Kings in Miami off a last-second Tyler Hero three-pointer to win the game. Hero with 26 and 12 rebounds for him. That might be a career high for rebounds.
Yeah.
22 from Lowry and 20 from Bam. Jimmy Butler, I do not think played in this game.
Dang, he didn't play and the Kings still lost at home?
No.
Or was it? It was in Miami. Still, though, it's been a brutal season for the Kings. Everybody was hyping up the Kings like this year it's going to be different. I know we said that the last 3 years, but this year especially, look at them in the preseason. I don't know what the record is. It's not good. They've sucked. 2-5 now, I think. Yikes.
Yep. And Sabonis had 22, 12, and 8. But they were without De'Aaron Fox in this one. So he has, like, I think a knee bruise or something.
Yeah. But if they're without Jimmy Butler, you gotta.
Yeah, he avoided structural damage, which is good. Just good to hear. But Herter's been playing well for them. He had 22 as well, but not enough.
Yeah, and he was on fire in the opening night game too. That was a good pickup by them. The Bucks blow out the Pistons 116-291, led by 32 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists from Giannis Antetokounmpo, 26 on 11 for 16 shooting from Drew Holiday. Sadiq Bey had 22 points in the loss, 16 from Isaiah Stewart, 2 for 3 from 3 for him. So another big bruising center shooting well from 3 tonight, just like Yusuf Nurkic. Cade Cunningham, 5 for 13 from the field. He struggled. Jaden Ivey struggled as well, 3 for 11 from the field, 7 points for the rookie.
And then we have the Bulls blew out the Hornets tonight. The starters didn't really do anything. DeRozan only had 9 points on 2 of 11. Levine only had 10 points, 4 for 16. Vucevic, 14 points, 5 of 16 shooting. Io, 8 points on 3 of 10 shooting. So not good from their starters, but they got a nice game finally from Patrick Williams, 7 for 9, 16 points. And Javonte Green off the bench had 17 off 7 shots. Goran Dragic, 16 on 9 shots. So the bench does it. the Hornets are still without their whole 3 of their guards, Ball, Rozier, and someone else. I forget who else they're the guard that didn't play. But yeah, they're very shorthanded right now. And other than Kelly Oubre with 24 points, did not really have any memorable moments in this one.
Yeah, but Dennis Smith Jr. has actually been playing very well for them, which is cool to see. The Blazer from last year, he's shooting 44% from 3 early on this season. Did he fix his lean in his shot or something?
I don't think he did.
I mean, he's been hitting.
Yeah,
he's been hitting and playing good defense. Like he's been very solid. He's kept himself in the league now. I think for if this improvement is real, he's going to be in the league for the foreseeable future. So nice to see him figure some things out.
Yep.
And then moving on, next slide, next game, we got let's see here. The biggest loss of Popovich's career there in San Antonio, 43-point blowout, 143-100. The Raptors absolutely smoke the Spurs, who had a good start to the season. They were looking like pretenders, though, after this one. For the Raptors, Gary Trent Jr., the former Blazer, 24 points. Siakam, 22, 11 assists, and 10 rebounds. Siakam has been passing the ball like crazy this year. He's basically the point guard with Fred VanVleet out. He's averaging 7.5 assists per game right now, Eric, to go along with 26 points per game. Mm-hmm. He's been shooting on decent efficiency as well. Siakam's been phenomenal this season for the Raptors.
Yes, he has.
Anunoby 18, Boucher 17 off the bench, Banton 13 in 13 minutes. I mean, they had an all-around effort today. That's how you put 143 points on the board. For the Spurs, Keita Bates-Diop started and had 17 points and was their leading scorer. So I didn't even realize he was still on the Spurs. The Spurs always just have these random players that they'll play. Branham, 13 off the bench for the Ohio State rookie. They start Romeo Langford as well. Zach Collins, 8 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists on 3 for 10 from the field and 24 minutes off the bench. It's tank season in San Antonio, I think, as of now.
Yeah, Blake Wesley got hurt. I think he's out 6 to 8 weeks. So Branham hadn't been playing, so nice to see he actually got some minutes tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, next up we have the Clippers getting back to 500 at 4-4. They beat the Rockets for the second time in 3 days. They didn't cover the spread on Monday, thankfully, but still got the W. And then, Paul George had 28. Marcus Morris, 21. For the Rockets, they had 26 and 13 from Şengün. And their backcourt, Porter and Green, both had 22. But that was about it for them scoring-wise.
Meanwhile, over in Dallas, the Mavericks take care of the Utah Jazz 103-100. The Jazz have had a phenomenal start to this season and almost took care of this game as well, which would have moved them to 7-2. Instead, they're 6-3. For the Mavericks, they were led by Luka Doncic, of course, 33 points, 11 assists, 5 rebounds. Luka Doncic in their first 7 games has had at least 30 points. I think he's the first player since Wilt to do that.
Yes,
so
he is.
Phenomenal from Luka carrying that team. Christian Wood's been really good off the bench, 21 points in 23 minutes on 10 for 15. And then Spencer Dinwiddie had 20 points as well. That's kind of the big 3, or maybe it's the big 1 and the smaller 2 over there in Dallas. And then for the Jazz, 22 from Clarkson, 15 from Vanderbilt. He hit his only 3-point attempt. So it looks like he kind of learned how to shoot over the offseason. Markkanen, 14 points. Sexton, 19 off the bench.
Yep, and we'll skip that Blazer game. And the Lakers actually win against New Orleans in overtime. Let's see. LeBron and AD only had 20 points, but Lonnie Walker with 28.
Good for him.
Yeah, so he had a good game. Russell Westbrook, 13 and 9 off the bench, but had 6 turnovers. For the Pelicans, Zion had 27, CJ 22 off 27 shots. Not good there.
8 assists, though, so he passes a little bit.
And 9 rebounds. Trey Murphy, who was off to a hot start, was 0 for 5 from 3 in this one. Jose Alvarado scored 15 points. That might be a career high for him, too.
Yeah, in 18 minutes, too. 3 for 4 from 3.
Yeah. But yeah, Lakers get their second win of the season.
Yeah, that's tough for the Pelicans because they want the Lakers to be as bad as possible because they have the right to swap picks with the Lakers. So that's they lose and the Lakers win. That's tough.
And if the Pelicans would have won, they would have been tied with us at 5-2. But.
Yep. So Matt Ryan had a 3 at the end of regulation to send this game into overtime. Nice. He had 11 points off the bench. And then Lakers taking care of business. Let's take a look at the Western Conference standings. I mean, it sucks to lose, but Portland's still sitting there at 2, and their next opponent is that team sitting there at 1. If the Blazers win their next game, they will be back at 1, and they will clinch the tiebreaker with Phoenix for the season. As they only play them 3 times. The next 2 games are the second and third matchups. And, we'll talk about those games and what we're doing for those in a second. But, yeah, I mean, the standings are, at this point early on in the season, the standings make no sense here in the West.
If the season ended today, Clippers, Warriors, Lakers, all out of the play-in and out of the playoffs completely. That'd be crazy.
And Sacramento right below them. Screw California. Just kidding. But
and then, Oklahoma City would be in the first play-in against New Orleans.
Mm-hmm. They've had an easy schedule, though. So that's the thing. Early on in the season, schedule strength matters here. Will obviously sway things, but, yeah, it's very confusing. San Antonio at 5. Utah at 3, Oklahoma City at 8. Very, very confusing. Still hard to really make anything out of this Western Conference playoff picture. I just think the West is completely wide open right now. I don't think you have a clear-cut favorite. Phoenix is probably the favorite right now, but we saw them lose at home in Game 7 to Dallas last year. So if Dallas can do that, I think there's a number of teams in the West that can be as good as Dallas was last year. So, I mean, that would mean the West is wide open.
What would you think about a first-round matchup against the New Orleans Pelicans?
Oh, man, Dame versus CJ? That would be interesting. Get our revenge. Because I don't know if they're built to trap Dame like that. Like they were back when they trapped Dame and we got swept by them, a few years ago, 2018. So I actually think that would be a solid matchup for Portland.
Yeah.
Brandon Ingram, that's the type of guy you put Jeremy Grant up against.
Well, Reese, if we stayed in the second seed, somehow we would play the first play-in winner, so we couldn't play Dallas in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, if we played Dallas in the playoffs, though, that's Gary Payton II is probably playing a ton. And guarding Luka a ton. And you see what he can do to slow him down, and if he slows him down, you win that series. Yep. That's the key to beating Dallas, is it starts and stops with Luka. But yeah, don't put Jeremy Grant on him. So that's not the move. Eastern Conference standings look like such. Milwaukee's still undefeated at 7-0, but Cleveland is 6-1. Toronto and Atlanta 5-3. See, the Eastern Conference playoff picture makes a ton more sense. Like, the only team in the top 8 that doesn't really belong there is Washington, and the only team outside of the top 8 that should probably be there is Miami, and then maybe Brooklyn as well, given their star talent. But this, Brooklyn is just a mess right now, and that their coaching decision is just, I don't even want to go into that, but yeah, I think it's dumb. I think it's a mistake. Hiring Ime Udoka, firing Steve Nash for all the all the drama around Ime Udoka. But the Eastern Conference playoff picture makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, for sure.
And then here are the next 5 games for the Blazers, Eric. Road trip time.
Yikes.
4th and 5th, Phoenix. 7th, Miami. 9th, Charlotte. 10th, New Orleans. So in the next, how many days is that? In the next 7 days, we have 5 games.
Yep. And going into tonight, we had 16 and 29 days, so it's crazy.
You guys better get used to us and better keep tuning in. You're going to have a post-game show constantly almost for the next month.
Yep.
So, yeah, we will have watch party streams over on Suns Valley Podcast on November 4th and 5th. I will join those guys. They're a Suns channel that does watch party streams for their games. They stream during the game, so I will join them, just like I joined them for the first Suns game. I just dropped stream highlights, which a lot of the highlights were from that watch party from the first game against Phoenix, where we had that thrilling 113-111 victory over them. So definitely go check them out. Just search Suns Valley Podcast in the search. And I will plug a link in chat here in a second if you want to go and subscribe so you don't miss those watch party streams on the 4th and 5th. And I will also tag everybody in our Discord. Hopefully the Discord link in the description still works. If not, I will also post a new link in the description so you guys can join the Discord. You can subscribe to the Suns channel and make sure you tune in because it's a lot of fun watching the game live with a Suns fan, especially when we win. So hopefully we win again.
And then tomorrow we'll have Blazers Uprise live around 3:30. So if you want to, there's only 2 games tomorrow, so we'll pick the 2 games and then we'll talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. And then, yeah, like Tori said, lots of post-game shows this month.
Absolutely. So anyway, Eric, any final words for this loss tonight?
Yeah, just a bummer the way we played and then got back into it and it felt like we could steal a game and then yeah, just too many dumb mistakes. Got to clean those up. But yeah, it's Gary Payton's been ruled out for the road trip, so the earliest he'll be playing is our first game back on I think November 15th. And then Dame, for those asking, no one knows when he'll play. It sounds like he's hoping to play the second night of the back-to-back in Phoenix. So it should put him out about 10 days, I think, from the injury. So we'll see if he plays in either of those, but I don't think they've made that determination one way or the other yet.
Yep, and then I will summarize the stream with our final donation for the night. Thank you to everyone who donated and supported the channel. Shout Clearly About with the $10 donation. He says, love this channel and love this fan base. Can't wait to rewatch this on ESPN for the ref you suck chance from every last human at Moda. Nurkic was nice. Brooks looks dirty with the wrist grab. Go Blazers. Thank you Clearly About for summarizing this game. Yeah, the refs sucked. It was a brutal loss for Portland, but without Dame, without GP2, without Trent and Watford, they come close. They almost have a thrilling comeback win. So, you know, things to improve, things to build upon, but still a competitive team so far this year, which is at least enjoyable and creates for some fun moments, even in a loss like tonight. So anyway, thank you all for tuning in to this episode of the Blazers Uprise postgame show presented by Bet Online. Remember to use code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your rewards. Tomorrow, we will have a new Believe in Blazers podcast, me and Steven Vaughn, and then Blazers Uprise Live, like Eric said, over on the second channel. So if you're not subscribed, check it out in the description box below. Blazers Uprise Live, our streaming channel. Anyway, hopefully you have a good rest of your Wednesday night. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.